Mr. Speaker, I believe that most members would agree that the fiscal path that our country is currently on is unsustainable. With an annual deficit of $1.6 trillion, a growing mountain of debt, and unemployment hovering near 10%, it's clear that we must change our course now or face catastrophic consequences in the very near future. My colleagues, the simple truth is that Uncle Sam needs a diet. The single greatest challenge of this Congress and our best hope for lasting recovery lies in curbing Uncle Sam's appetite for spending. It's time to cut up the government's credit card and live within our means, starting right now. Today, just 2 nights ago, Congress passed a $1 trillion health care bill that was opposed by every Republican House member and 39 Democrat House members. Never before in our nation's history has such a historic legislation been passed by one party over such widely based bipartisan opposition. Now, here we are again, preparing to vote on yet another huge spending bill that was crafted without any transparency or bipartisan involvement. Most members would agree that providing relief to Americans suffering from natural disasters is a responsible and worthy use of taxpayer dollars. Most members would agree we don't need to load up a disaster bill with hundreds of millions of dollars of summer youth program or jobs, especially when there is already, and let me emphasize this, loaded up with summer youth jobs program, especially when there's already $1.4 billion in the jobs pipeline. It's worth noting that the $600 million for a summer youth jobs program is being offset by various rescissions in unusual funding, in the unused funding from the stimulus bill and other past spending bills. But my underlying question is this: if there is $1.4 trillion already in the pipeline for a Department of Labor jobs program, why can't we return the rescinded $600 million back to the Treasury for deficit reduction? Why must my Democrat friends continue to spend and spend and spend and spend? At the beginning of this Congress, the Appropriations Committee consisted of 60 members, 37 Democrats, 23 Republicans. It's worth noting, however, that my chairman has made it a habit to write his bills and completely bypass the Democrat and Republican members of the committee. Do not for 1 minute believe that this legislation reflects the work of the House Appropriations Committee or even the Democrats on the Appropriations Committee, because it does not. To my knowledge, this bill has had no input from any members other than the chairman himself. There has been no markup, no amendments, and no potential offsets debated or even discussed by the committee. For example, the $1 trillion stimulus package and the subsequent son of stimulus passed by the House prior to Christmas, this legislation will pass without any opportunity for a member to amend it. With billions and billions of stimulus funding still unspent, there's no reason why the entire emergency relief portion of this legislation could not be entirely paid for or be used to begin paying down that $1.6 trillion deficit for the year. Mr. Obey has argued that Republicans didn't, quote, pay for disasters when we were in charge. On that point, he is correct. However, when Republicans were the majority party, annual deficits were not at $1.6 trillion as they are today, and we didn't have hundreds of billions of dollars in unnecessary funding sloshing around in federal coffers. Surely we can cut $5.1 billion in unspent stimulus funding to pay for the FEMA spending involved here. We shouldn't continue to spend money we don't have. Mr. Speaker, we can agree to disagree on the cause of our economic troubles but the fact remains that we cannot spend our way into economic health. Until the Congress curbs its appetite for spending, our economy will continue to suffer. With that said, I urge members on both sides of the aisle to insist, especially after Sunday's budget-busting vote on health care, that we fully offset the entire cost of this legislation so we do not further burden future generations with even more debt. I will close as I began with this comment. The simple truth is that Uncle Sam needs a diet.